able to socialize, to interact, and really kind of add some energy to Washington Street as you connect Wesleyan to Main Street. And we thought that that had some legs to really kind of give us the amount of users necessary to really build a building of substance, while also kind of creating, like I said, that energy there. You know, we approached Wesleyan and started to discuss a proposal, and obviously the first question was, well, why? What are the justifications? Why would you want to relocate the bookstore in the first place? And we actually think there are a couple of really good reasons to do that. I mean, one, critically, is that you have an opportunity to really build a state-of-the-art, new, modern bookstore that serves the needs of the student body as well as the university on a level that is on par with that is experienced on other elite universities around the country. When you see universities and you see bookstores almost it's a branding image statement. It's an opportunity to say this is kind of who we are, this is our culture, this is what we are, and to be able to have that on the entrance to your university on a high level is something that we thought might be very important, and we obviously are here to discuss that with you today. Certainly enhancing the offerings of the bookstore in terms of allowing it to have digital merchandise, allowing it to have a more expanded retail offering. By relocating it, by growing it, we'll have additional space to be able to kind of cater to some of those needs that, you know, they're kind of natural over time. As things evolve, these types of changes are a lot of times necessary. We talked about the aspects of it being kind of a social hub, of creating another gathering place for students to shop for their books, to kind of enjoy meals at restaurants, to enjoy whether it's coffee or tea at some of the local places, but to just create another hub on the campus environment to provide that platform for interconnection and kind of communal interactions. And so, you know, having this discussion, we saw that there were a lot of positives, and certainly enough positives to at least warrant further discussion. And so, you know, we began the process with Wesleyan University to basically kind of memorialize our agreement in principle, to say non-binding, but we are going to work together here to kind of come together and pursue moving the bookstore. And this is obviously where we are here today, kind of having that more broader discussion to see kind of what the community really feels. So I say all that to say that we're very open and receptive to your comments. We want to understand what you feel. We want to understand what your thoughts are in a very candid manner so that we can respond to those. And obviously, we would like an outcome in which we're able to kind of respond to those comments, incorporate them into the plan, and ultimately move forward with the project. But the first step is to kind of open that dialogue, have a two-way communication and conversation, so that we're kind of starting from the right points and kind of going toward the right direction together. So with that, I'll kind of provide a brief overview of the nuts and bolts and some of the details of the project, because like I said, a lot of information has been flowing around on the blogs and the newspapers and so forth, and we just want to make sure that you have an understanding of what we're really talking about. So the location is pretty straightforward. We mentioned the hard corner of Pearl Street in Washington on Route 66. It is an assemblage of 4 properties. There's 166 Washington Street, which is a multifamily residential unit on the corner. That unit is vacant. There are no occupants. The unit is substantially underinvested, and they would require several hundred thousand, at least $800,000 of investment to return that building to service. So just to understand the context that these are buildings that are in disrepair, they are underinvested, and whether it's us or somebody else, somebody will have to come to these buildings with significant dollars in order to make them serviceable for the future along Washington Street. The next home is 172 Washington Street, which is a single-family home that's owned by a local Middletown community member. This gentleman has been trying to sell his home, and we have come under arrangement with him to purchase his property. He is currently living there. 180 Washington Street is a vacant piece of land that is overgrown. If you drive by it, you'll see kind of the bush and the rubble. It's a bit of an eyesore. I would say it's more than a bit of an eyesore to Washington Street, but it's certainly something that needs to be addressed with investment of some sort. And then there's 186 Washington Street, which is another multi-family residential property formerly or currently owned by Wesleyan University that also requires some amount of significant investment to return to service. So those are the properties that we're dealing with. Those are the properties that would be torn down in order to facilitate and make way for this new development. And I think the point there is that regardless of what approach is taken, those properties are underinvested and will require significant investment to return those to service. What we're proposing to build on this site. So currently, we have several national retailers that we're contemplating putting on the ground floor. These would be food service users. We're talking with a coffee shop. We're talking with a food provider. We're looking at some type of a bank facility tenant, and we're also talking about the bookstore. So the first floor would have the entryways for all of those tenants. The second floor of the building would be all Wesleyan bookstore, if we were able to kind of move forward with this plan. And then the third floor would be office space. So what that all turns out to be is roughly a 20,000 plus or minus, really plus, 20,000 plus square foot building on 3 stories to be located on the corner of Pearl and Washington Streets. And that's important because one thing that's critical for us, and I don't want to steal Jeff's thunder, he'll certainly speak in greater detail on this, is to create a building that will really fit in with the surrounding environment. I personally am not a fan of development that comes in and tries to make these crazy statements that people are kind of scratching their heads about 5 or 10 years later. But the challenge here is to really create a development that will harmoniously live with the community, that will blend in and fit in, and something that will kind of be seamlessly introduced to that part of the area. Another thing that's very important to us, and kind of Bob alluded to it when he mentioned Green Skies, and our photovoltaic solar company is green, sustainability. Obviously, Green Skies, with their installation of PV solar throughout the country, is a green company. They're kind of carrying that flag and kind of putting forth that mantra, and it's important for us on the development side to kind of continue along that theme. In that vein, we will be pursuing a LEED certification for this project to make sure that it is going to be green, it's going to be environmentally sensitive, and it's going to be responsibly built. And so we were kind of talking about it. We're still in the very preliminary stages of design, so we don't know precisely what level of LEED we will be achieving or aspiring to, but certainly a minimum standard of LEED silver is what we'll be targeting to deliver that kind of green element to this project. And also, obviously with the relocation of Green Skies Renewable Energy as a anchor tenant to locate to the 3rd floor of this building, that kind of speaks more to the theme around this project of being environmentally sensitive and environmentally friendly. Finally, schedule. I'm sure people will want to understand kind of what our thinking is in terms of timing and so forth. Obviously, we'd like to get moving as quickly as possible. We understand that it's a delicate process, and we certainly want to move through with care and make sure that we're taking into account your feedback, incorporating into our plans, and not moving forward kind of on our own in our own direction. So, we would like and we would plan to break ground, assuming that all things kind of fell into line appropriately, in the spring of 2014, or I'm sorry, spring of 2013. A building such as this has roughly a 12-month construction cycle. So a spring 2013 ground break would allow us to open for service roughly the spring of 2014, or for the spring 2014 academic year. So at a high level, that is kind of the details of the project. And we certainly can revisit these in the Q&A if you guys have any additional questions there. But at this point, I'll turn over to Jeff to speak about kind of the design intent and kind of where we're hoping to go with the aesthetic of this building.